What's up, guys, and welcome back to the Tim Sports Talk. And today we are talking about, should Washington make a move on former NFC East division rival Carson Wentz from the Colts? Could this be the answer that Washington is looking for at the QB spot? But let's take a look at why he's even available here. So according to some experts, Colts cutting Carson Wentz seems inevitable if trades fail. And it's interesting that that's being the rumor around the block. And yes, the Colts had a disappointing year. They were expected to be really, really good. They had, I believe, an 11-5 record last year and ended up only finishing 9-8 this year. So a lot of eyes turned to Carson Wentz saying, hey, you were already on a really good football team and you came to a good football team. What in the world happened? But if you look at Carson Wentz's stats, it's not terrible. You can see here 27 touchdowns to 7 interceptions, nearly 3,600 yards, which is not great. You would like to see those yards way up in a 17-game year. 3,600 yards is not a lot, or 3,563 really. So I'm even upping it. I would be really surprised, honestly, if the Colts moved on from Carson Wentz. And yes, there were some times that you would get really frustrated with him, especially the last game of the year where he completely had a dud, 17 for 29, 185 yards, a touchdown, and an interception, losing a must-win game to the Jacksonville Jaguars. But he was also sacked 6 times in that game, and I know Kurt Warner made a video on how some of those were his fault, but if you really watch him, the left tackle is just getting beat off snap, right? Or it's just immediate pressure coming into his face. So maybe he could have gotten rid of the ball a little bit faster or a little bit quicker here or there. But at the same time, it's not like he was holding the ball for 4, 5, 6 seconds and then taking a sack. It's within 3 seconds, somebody's in his face. I also don't know how much I like the Colts offense in general. They don't really take advantage of the motion as much as other teams that are towards the bottom of the league. I think that would help. But anyway, should Washington, if he is actually on the block, should Washington pursue? So here's some reasons why I think actually it wouldn't be a horrible idea. First of all, the touchdown to interception ratio is phenomenal. Right now, Taylor Heinicke ended with 20 touchdowns and 15 interceptions. If we were able to get a completely better touchdown to interception ratio, that would help a whole lot more. Look at here's the contract. So the contract is interesting. He would be a $28.294 million cap hit this year, but he's also under contract for 3 seasons. $26 million the year after that, $27 million the year after that. That is actually tremendous for Washington. If you can get a guy under $30 million a year that could potentially be a franchise quarterback. You have him under contract for 3 seasons. You have him under that 13.5% mark that I've talked about in the past. If you have a guy that's 14, 15, 16 plus percentage of your cap, you're most likely not going to win the Super Bowl. Nobody has ever done it before over 13.5. You have a guy right here at the 13.5 and under because the contract just goes lower as it goes on. Another thing about the contract is if you don't like him, you can save his entire contract the year after. He's literally a $0 dead space cap hit, so you could cut him hands-free. Just buy after year 1. If you don't like him, move on, go for a quarterback of the future in the draft, so on and so forth, because that's another point of maybe we should look to trade this year is because the quarterback class is not very touted. It's not very good, and I've looked at them. I like Kenny Pickett. I like Desmond Ridder. Malik Willis is interesting, but I think he's a bit more of a project that's going to take 2 or 3 years down the road before he really hits his stride. Next year's class, according to everybody, is going to be better. So if you take a year with Carson Wentz, where you already have a really solid team around him, who knows? If he turns into your franchise quarterback, great. If not, it's not the end of the world because you can just cut him for free next year. Looking at our cap space situation, we are at just under $32 million in cap space going into 2022, but there's ways that you can get and increase that, right? So you're like, oh no, that's $28 million. We'd have no cap space left. Technically true, but the Saints. Look at the Saints, okay? The Saints have proved that the cap space is not a thing. It's a myth, right? Because they are like negative 60 million in cap or something like right now. They were a negative 100 million in cap the year before. And they do some trickery, do some basically pushing some cans down the road, kicking some money down the road. It's not a big deal. So we can still sign some free agents if we so choose, also making their cap hit really, really low this year, just like we did for Curtis Samuel and others, and William Jackson. I think William Jackson, even though he was getting paid $14 million a year, last year he was only a $6 million cap hit. Curtis Samuel, he's getting paid like $11.5 or $12.5 million a year. Last year he was only like a $3 million cap hit. So you can work the contracts around where you're not getting hit so hard. Now, what would I do to trade for Carson Wentz? I'm not trading my first-round pick, okay? I'm not trading even a second-round pick. Because if the Colts are really looking to cut this dude, I would trade a third-round pick for this guy. A third-round pick, you can still go ahead and get a nice defensive player early in the first round if you wanted to, like Devin Lloyd, or you can even replace Brandon Sheriff at guard with Tyler Lindenbaum from Iowa. There's definitely some interesting places you can go, any directions. I don't like first-round receivers, honestly, so I wouldn't go the first-round receiver route. But you could immediately add another weapon with Terry McLaurin, like a Drake London or a Chris Olave or Trey Burke from Arkansas. So you could immediately give him an additional weapon to combine with Terry McLaurin. You got Logan Thomas. You got the rookie John Bates coming into his second year, who looked okay. He's not great, but a solid number 2. The offensive line was tremendous, with coached by John Matsko. There's actually a lot that you could like if you trade a third-round pick. And why the Colts would be willing to trade a third-round pick is because they're already looking to cut him. Why not extract a third-round pick from another team if you're looking to cut your guy anyway? Now, when the Colts traded for Carson Wentz this past year, he was a first-round pick and a third-round pick. But that's a different situation, right? Where the Eagles weren't going to be able to cut Carson Wentz right away because of all the dead cap money. The Colts could potentially cut him. Now, all this said, I really don't think the Colts are going to move on. I think that Carson Wentz is going to stay in a Colts uniform and play next year. I think this is a little bit overhyped, but at the same time, I think this would be a tremendous move for Washington. You buy a little time to get your franchise quarterback next season, or if you like a guy later in the draft, like if Bailey Zapp is there in the 4th round, you could add him to the quarterback mix. It's not terrible. Is Carson Wentz my first choice? No. But I don't think it's a bad choice. I think it'd be a really interesting move. But you guys let me know what you guys think about that in the comments below. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Also in the description below, there's a Discord link. Hop in our Discord and come talk some football. And last but not least, there are donation links in the description below. If you feel so kind, you can donate to the channel. Thank you for watching to the end. And until next time. See ya!